Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to the Investor and Analyst Meet 2022 of Greenlam Industries Limited. Today, we have with us on the dais Mr. Saurabh Mittal, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Ashok Sharma, Chief Financial Officer from Greenlam Industries Limited. We move through the presentation to discuss our business model, key strategic initiatives and growth drivers. Apart from the audience in the room, we also have our phone lines connected to investors and analysts who were unable to join the meet today. The management would first start with an overview of the business, post which we would take questions from the audience. I would now request Mr. Saurabh Mittal to kindly address the audience. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, everyone, and very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. And as mentioned, I'll take you through the vision of the company, and post which we'll be happy to answer your queries and questions. The big messages of this presentation are Greenlam 2 is embarked on a decisive investments of about 1,000 crores across 3 manufacturing facilities. The company is expanding its market opportunity in both domestic and international market. Greenlam will emerge larger, stronger, more profitable, and we're graduating from one orbit into another. So just part 1 of Greenlam Industries. So the background as a snapshot, we commenced operations in 1993. We have 2 manufacturing plants at the moment at Rajasthan and Himachal Pradesh. We have experienced team, management bandwidth is there to implement the projects. The products are marketed through 9 distribution centers, 21 offices, 5 warehouses, 14 odd dealer distributors, retailers in the country. Nationally, we are present across 100 countries, supported by 4 international distribution centers, 15 offices, 8 subsidiaries, and over 100 team members working in various parts of the world. Currently, we are a strength of about 5,000 team members across the world. We have various certifications across our manufacturing for products, which are both domestically and globally. We're listed on the BSE and NSE. The market capitalization as on 31st March was 4,386 crores. The discipline that got us here has been a focus on the portfolio. Ever since we became an independent company, we've deepened our focus on decorative products and related solutions across the wood panel industry. We focus on brand premiumization and working on superior terms of trade with the channel. We've created capacities ahead of the demand curve. We've enhanced manufacturing capacities at relatively low infrastructure costs. We've strengthened the capital costs. We've invested through prudent mix of debt and internal accruals. And we've moderated debt using cash flows and enhancing shareholder value. The values by which the Greenlam lives by trust, performance, learning, speed, agility, and team. The current manufacturing capacity is about 15.62 million sheets across Behror and Nalagarh, which is at Himachal. 4.2 million meters square of decorative veneer capacity, 1 million square meters of engineered wood flooring capacity, and about 120,000 doors and door sets capacity. Just a quick on the product portfolio once again. So we have laminates here, where we do commodity to specialty products. There are compact panels, which are also called compact laminates, used for bathroom partitions, medical furniture, which is the Lab Guardian, restroom and locker solutions. Clad facade panels are used on exteriors. Status kitchen solutions are compact components for kitchen slabs and backsplash, etc., mostly for the international market. Then we have melamine paste chipboard, laminate particle boards matching with the laminate color. On the veneer and allied category, we have decorative veneer, which is with the brand Decowood. We do natural, engineered, and in the engineered wood flooring category, we have the product called Mikasa real wood floors, which are engineered wood flooring products with matching accessories. And in the door category, we have the brand Mikasa doors and frames, which are engineered doors and door sets, basically with the frames. So these are the product categories we are currently, product and service categories we are present in. So in business, which is a core business, we have installed capacity at the moment of 15.62 million sheets. FY22, the revenues from this business was about 1,556 crores. And these are the number of products, number of SKUs, colors, species which we do. Products are done across various dimensions, starting from 3 feet by 7 feet up to 5 feet by 12 feet. Thicknesses across 0.5 to 1.5 millimeter. Several specialty products are there, like high gloss, anti-fingerprint, Unicorp, which are one color, chalk grade products, market grade products, etc. Products are extensively used across hospitality, health, education, retail spaces. On the compact laminate, again, a reasonably large range of designs, species, dimensions, thicknesses, and usage. This is again mostly the facade laminates. Most of the compact laminates are used mostly in commercial spaces. In facade laminates, 42 decors. In interior facade, interior clad laminates, about 100 decors. We have all these samples, placed out, and our teams are here to, show you, explain you how the products are used, how they look and feel, because customer engagement is still low in our category. Then we have restroom cubicles, which are basically bathroom partition products, locker room solutions. You probably have seen it in airports and public spaces. Most of the toilet partitions are now made with compact laminates. And we have melamine chipboard, which matches the laminates. So projects use laminates and prelam particle boards, combination. So here we have a 2 million square meter capacity. Overview of the laminates market. So it's about a 9,000 crore industry. 2,500 crores comes in from export. 6,500 crores is from the domestic market. Of the 6,500 crores, approximately 4,000 is organized market, and 2,500 crores is unorganized market. This is in value now. In quantities, the unorganized market share is larger in percent. On the veneer side, this is a capacity, 4.2 million meters square. Last year we did 83 crores. Again, we vast variety of items available with 360 species in teak engineered. We have 13 and 49 each. So again, mostly residential and commercial spaces. Products come in natural, engineered, teak, various textures, various treatments, various dimensions. The next product is the engineered wood flooring, 1 million square meter capacity. Last year's revenue was about 36.7 crores. Again, we have two products here, Atmos and Pristine, with 72 and 10 SKUs in each collections. Again, various kinds of flooring with long planks, chevron, herringbone, weather collections. So all those samples are there for you all to just kind of glance through. The next product is the engineered wooden doors, 120,000 door set capacity per annum. But last year's revenue was 26.7 crores. So we do fire-rated, non-fire-rated, specialty doors for hospitals, acoustic doors. So the idea here is to produce doors in the factory and install them on the site, versus the conventional method of door fabrication on the site. Just a little bit of the technology integration we are trying to do across the business. So with visualizers, certifications, videos, product details, product grading details. This is a visualizer we built for the flooring business, just to give you a glimpse of what we're doing on the technology side for the interface with customers. Our credentials across products are green credentials actually, with Green Guard for indoor air quality, Green Label, FSC certifications. NSF is for the food certification in US, ISO certifications, IGB. In our laminates processes, we don't use any urea, while most unorganized and other players also use urea in the production. So just the domestic footprint of the company. So two plants, Behror, Nalagarh, and we've marked three, one in Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. So these three sites are upcoming, and they'll be coming up at various times, which we'll explain. And so Behror plant does laminates, veneers, flooring doors. Andhra Pradesh plant will do laminates and particle boards. Himachal is doing laminates and compact laminates. The Gujarat plant will do only laminates, and the Tamil Nadu will do only plywoods. and these are the capacities, which we have and which we are installing. The blue dot shows all the branch offices across the country. Sales teams are present across 150 towns. Corporate offices in Delhi. The red dot shows all the distribution points, and we have one experience center in Calcutta, and we're building one in Nepal. The Prantij facility, the Gujarat facility, will be operational in Q2 of this financial year, which is within September. The Andhra Pradesh plant for laminates will be operational in Q4 FY23. Particle boards will be operational in Q4 FY24. The plywood plant at Tamil Nadu will be operational Q4 FY23. So just internationally, all the areas we marked is where we have subsidiary offices, warehouses, or branch offices in these countries. Otherwise, the products are available across 100 countries worldwide. We have teams in various other parts of the world. So US, Miami is the office. We have a warehouse in Philadelphia. UK, there's a subsidiary company. Italy, there's a warehouse. Switzerland, there's a subsidiary company. Dubai is a branch. Poland, Russia are subsidiary companies. Nepal is a subsidiary company. Hong Kong, Thailand, Philippines, all those places are branch offices, and Singapore is the operating subsidiary company there, including, even India is a warehouse there. So present across 100 countries worldwide. So what has Greenlam achieved as a result? The value we've created until 31st March 2022 is 4,300 crores. We counted amongst the world's brands. We've built a distribution setup across 100 countries globally. We comprise India's first engineered wood flooring and door manufacturers, the first ones to pioneer actually we are the only producers in flooring right now, and we're the first organized producers in the door segment. We turned the business into cash flow positive. We ran a tight ship with strong working capital hygiene across the market cycles with various disruptions across the last couple of years. We still managed an improved capital cycle. And we're sitting on cash as of 31st March of 176 crores. We became an independent company in financial year 15. Yeah. Just a few numbers on how revenues moved ever since we became an independent company, how has EBITDA moved, profitability, net working capital cycle, ROC, equity, ROE, net debt to equity, net debt to EBITDA. If you see, ever since we became an independent company, on the receivable side, we've improved from 65 days to 28 days. Interest cover has improved. Ratings have improved. Net debt to equity has improved. Average cost of interest in FY22 was 3.4% for the company. Short-term rating is also improved. So across most financial parameters, despite the challenges, we have kind of inched up ever since we became an independent company. We successfully counted in FY22. So FY22 at revenues of 1,700 crores was despite the loss of production and sales at the Behror plant, where the plant lost operational days and had restricted working hours for in the month of December and January, and a little bit of Feb also. We had extremely volatile and high raw material increases, which the industry's never seen before across raw materials, all chemicals, paper, input costs, base ply, veneers. Every cost was at the peak, which we've never experienced in the past. There were significant logistical challenges in both inward movement of containers and outward movement of containers. We end up importing nearly 80% of raw materials, and 50% of revenues get exported. So with significantly large amount of containers moving in and out. So on both sides, there were challenges on inventory and supply chain. So despite the challenges, what did we achieve in FY22? We believe we did a decent performance despite all the challenges. We overcame 2 COVID closures in FY22. We kind of embarked on the next journey of our growth, and we announced 2 new projects. We overcame disruption at Behror plant, last year. If you look at the FY22 performance, revenues were at 1,700 crores, grew 42%. So about 1,200 crores were the revenue in FY21. EBITDA grew 7.9%. So grew in value, reduced in percent because of the high raw material costs. And we could only pass on to the market, and there was a time lag for it. PAT grew in value 22.9% after exceptional losses. Net working capital cycle improved despite the logistical challenges. On the laminate floor business, revenues grew 46% to 1,556 crores. The veneer business grew 6.5% to 83 crores. So flooring doors also grew, although the base was smaller, but still we didn't grow much. So 36.7 was the revenues in the flooring and 26.8 in the door business. So what's Greenlam? Next part of Greenlam as part 2. So what's the macro as we see in our company? Population, urbanization, demographic dividend, replacement demand, rise in home demand, online retail sector, mechanized furniture manufacturer is going basically a lot of OEM culture, is expanding in the country with ready-to-fit kitchens, wardrobes, doors, panels, shop fit-outs. The GST and the e-way bill is favoring growth in players, clearly putting more pressure on organized industry. Widening market for new homes, the trend towards formalization, organized players we believe will win. On the customer side, for organized sector products, consumer price sensitivity is declining, we believe. Consumers seeking a single brand solution, increased online furniture offtake, and preference for environmentally friendly products. So the unprecedented opportunity which we see, organized and branded businesses to take off and grow faster, widening a wider opportunity in branded and substitute. So our goals in the next chapter of our journey is to emerge as India's leading wood panel player, to graduate from only doing surfacing products to also doing substrate products. And so we have a full solution of surface and substrate. To secure sustainable access, so while we build these wood-based industries, we also want to focus on building a sustainable raw material supply chain with plantation, being driven by the company in coordination with the farmers. Create a platform of sustainable outperformance to deepen financial environmental certification and compliance discipline to position ourselves as a comprehensive substrate and decorative player. So these are the segments we are currently present in: laminates, flooring, doors, veneers. With the expansions, we'll add the particle boards and the plywood to it, and laminates continue to remain our core business. So the initiatives, the 6 initiative Greenlam 2.0, expansion, acquisition, balance sheet right sizing, prudent debt mobilization, portfolio widening, and resource security, especially in the wood-based industry. From a market opportunity perspective, so currently the businesses we are present in have a market opportunity of 11,000. With the addition of plywood and particle boards, overall pie goes to 46,000. Although not all plywood market is addressable with our new production, will only be in the mid to premium category, but just generally the category is far larger. So that's about how the market size in our industry is. So clearly, MDF is an industry we are not present in right at the moment. So it's MDF, plywood at 30,000, laminates at 9,000, veneer segment at 2, and particle board industry size at 5,000 crores. So just generally, how things are going to move. So from 11,000 crore market opportunity, we moved to 46,000 crore. It took us nearly 29, 30 years to get to 1,700 crores, and we believe the next 5 years with the base of FY21, we should more than triple our revenues with the investments we are doing right now. The outcomes of second part of our journey as an independent will be more than tripling our revenues from the base of FY21 by FY27. Cross-selling products across, because there's a lot of channel overlap between all the cross distribution network, retail network, architects, IDs, OEMs, developers, builders, so we can cross-sell various products. We become a one-stop solution across all wood panel industry requirements. We build a long platform we broaden our portfolio, and we strengthen the Greenlam brand. On the greenfield expansion, so investment in greenfield manufacturing facility is for laminates, plywood, and pipes. So 2 greenfield plants are coming up, as I said earlier. One is in Andhra Pradesh, one is in Tamil Nadu. So Andhra Pradesh is 231,000 cubic meter of particle board capacity. It's a European line which we are building to be operational by FY24 Q4. The laminates capacity is laminates and boards, which is laminated boards, to be operational by Q4 FY23. And Tamil Nadu is for plywood, 8 meter square of plywood, to be operational by Q4 FY23. Total investments in the SARS is about 950 crores. On the acquisition, we just acquired a Gujarat-based laminate plant. So cost of acquisition is about 36 crores. We'll be spending approximately another 15 crores to upgrade the plant, and this plant should be operational within this quarter. Current installed capacity is 3.4 million sheets a year, and we'll upgrade the plant to 5.4 million sheets. So this plant largely will be focused on servicing the commodity market of laminates, which is nearly 50% of India's market in terms of volume terms, which we cannot service efficiently because of capacity restriction and the way the plant has been designed in our existing 2 plants, and including Naidupeta will not be able to do it. So the idea is to build focus on that category and gain market share there, which helps us kind of cross-sell other Greenlam products and also widens the reach across many markets in the country. On the acquisition, so funded from internal accruals, the annual revenue potential at 5.4 million sheets will be 250 crores. And revenue generation will be quick, so because currently we are already running at 110% utilization. So I think the moment we start the plant, we should be up and running, immediately, actually speaking. And the SKUs will be fewer, working capital requirements will be smaller than existing because the range is smaller. So advantages of the location is Gujarat is a hub for most raw materials with ports being close by. So availability of paper, chemicals is all quite easy. So clearly the idea will be to ramp up fairly quickly from this plant. So now post the expansion and the acquisition, we're adding 8.9 million sheets of laminates capacity, sheets and boards, 18.9 million meter square of plywood capacity, 231,000 cubic meter of particle board capacity. Total investment across these 3 plants estimated to be about 1,000 crores within some investments already happened in FY22, so FY22, FY23, and FY24, 3 financial years. Projected revenues from these investments is about 1,750 crores. 65% is to be funded by debt, 35% is to be funded by internal accruals. And repayment of debt, because majority of the debt will come in from the European bank, which funds the European exports of capital machines. It'll be so repayments are between 7 to 12 years. So on the balance sheet side, we raised on preferential basis 195 crores of equity, and this was issued at 309 rupees, which with a dilution of 4.97% post issue of capital. So clearly the idea of raising capital was to support the balance sheet. And so that's on the balance sheet side. On the resource side, we talked about focusing on sustainable raw material supply for the wood-based industry, and so that's an initiative we have begun. And clearly, I think that's something we want to focus on from a long-term perspective. It helps us bring raw material at an efficient price, and there will be no mismatch in terms of where the raw material comes in from where the markets are. So that's something we are hoping to pay more attention to. So how we strengthen the marketing and sales over the years, we've plugged category gaps, widened portfolio, provided solutions from just a product offering. We've leveraged digital platforms that still are leveraging digital platforms to engage to increase customer engagements, introduce latest designs and trends across product portfolio. We believe the Greenlam brand can enter new segments and commercial larger capacities in the existing segments, and it's time has come for us to kind of move out from just being a niche decorative player to a decorative vinyl substrate player. And clearly, I think we believe that this whole initiative of adding more capacities, moving quicker into particle boards, will help us build in leadership in the wood panel industry. So this is a value creation opportunity, significant business growth within a compressed time frame, mobilizing funds through prudent mix of debt and internal accruals and equity, possibility of higher margins through synergies, and positive cash flows from the existing business will drive sustainable growth. The existing business really doesn't need any more cash. It just needs routine maintenance capital expenditure. But we're entering a new orbit which will make us larger, more profitable, more sustainable, and we are laying the foundation of a more valuable Greenlam. This is just a snapshot of where the capacities are coming up, what capacities, what investment, what sort of revenue potential, and the expected date of commercial production. So I'll move on this. This is a table which shows all the capacities of laminates and other products. So laminates will move from 15.62 to 24.52 across 4 locations. Veneer flooring doors will remain at the Behror plant with no capacity expansion. Plywood will come at Tamil Nadu. Particle boards will come at Andhra Pradesh. That's part 3. Just a quick run on the FY22 and Q1 FY23 numbers. So FY22 revenues, one of which I already told you. You probably know that. EBITDA at 187, PAT at 90.6. Q1 was 470 crores of revenue. Revenues could have been higher, but despite the logistical challenges on exports, we still have probably inventory. But production was at 110% utilization. The gross margin, by and large, remained flattish versus Q4. It was by and large flattish. That's on the laminate side. As capacity utilization, realizations have improved from 782 to 1,002 rupees. Multiple price hikes have been taken last year, as well as value additions happened. On the wood sector, wood segment, last year we did 47 crores. Q1 was 40.4. EBITDA losses have come down in the wood segment. So here too we had challenges on raw material costs, plywood costs, veneer costs, timber costs. I think we're still a bit off from what we should be here. Decorative veneer was at 25.3 crores in Q1. Flooring did far better this quarter at 11.5 crores. I think the door business is still struggling with the numbers. Capital employed has come down in the wood veneer segment as inventories have reduced. That's just on the decorative veneer panel business. That's on the working capital side. So FY22 we were on 81 days, improved versus FY21. Q1 we were at 77 days. Inventory number of days seems to be a bit elevated. It's also because of the export challenges of containers and goods still in transit, not reaching the ports of the destinations, and the import side. But otherwise, debtors, payables, by and large, everything's moving quite well. the value's gone up of inventory because of raw material costs going up. So in quantity terms, it's absolutely under control, but because most of the RM costs have gone up, so that shows elevated value. On the debt side, the net debt FY22 was 168 crores. Q1 was 222 crores. On the return ratio side, the ROCs are still largely on the veneer side. The laminates ROCs are nearly touching 30-31%. I'm sure this will also improve, but at the moment, this is what it is. 15%. X projects is 15.9%. ROE at 14.4%. That is it all from my side. So we'll be happy to do some.
Thank you, sir. We would now like to take the Q&A session. We would first give an opportunity to the members on the call to ask, post which we will take questions from the audience in the room. We will wait for a moment while the online question queue assembles. As the online question queue assembles, we would start the Q&A with the participants present here. Anyone willing to ask a question can please raise their hand and mention the name and their company name for starting the question.
This is Pritesh Vora from Mission Street, India. My question is, our asset turnover ratio is close to 2.5-3 times if you consider the existing plant. And now we are showing 1,000 crore investment and 1,750 revenue potential. So why there is a decrease in asset turnover? Or we are investing into another plywood or something else which requires higher asset?
The newer investments on the particle board side, the asset turnover is lower, while operating margins will be higher. So in the plywood laminate side, the asset turnovers we've been doing, the same will be maintained. Or rather than plywood, the asset turnover is slightly higher, but in particle boards it will be lower. It's more like a 1:1 kind, but operating profits will be in the 25 to 28%.
This is Bhavin from Enam Holdings. Thanks, Saurabh, for the presentation. Always exciting to see next growth plans from the company. Looks to be a good one. So, few questions. First, on the current plans, what you're planning, and you also give the guidance of tripling revenues, FY21 revenues by FY27. So, how do you include both domestic market and global market? So, these new expansion plans, including our existing laminate expansion also, support the global market and to increase the global market business, are there in the plans, or you think still domestic market opportunities is large enough and this expansion plans you will be able to sell more in domestic market itself? That would be my first question.
So, on the new investments, the plywood and particle board business will be largely on nearly all domestic market. On the laminate expansion at Naidupeta and the Gujarat factory, you could assume we'll have the same ratio of 50% domestic, 50% export market. So I think the laminate mix, as we see things now, we see opportunity in and export market. So I think that probably work with the same trajectory of both the markets growing. The wood-based industry will be largely domestic market.
My second question is leaving out MDF, and if I see that industry's number looks very exciting, the companies are growing at very high growth. I think that segment in overall wood panel is growing high and EBITDA margins high, but I have left that out because it looks to be capital intensive. So is that the reason you left out MDF from this growth phase, or there were apprehensions that you have not considered MDF when you want to project yourself as a leading wood panel player?
Right. So the idea was first to invest into particle boards line, because we clearly see there is a gap in that segment. It's like what I think MDF was 10, 12 years ago. There is no organized producer of particle boards. Most of the factories are subscale, revenues of 50, 100 crores, inefficient equipment, higher cost of operation, and particle boards are largely sold as pre-laminated products. They're not sold as bare boards, unlike MDF. So alignment with the laminate business, which is also decorative business, was far higher. So we thought that, or we believe and seeing learnings from our understanding of the international market, that having laminates, compact laminates, pre-lam particle board, oblique melamine chipboard, which are all decorative in nature, was the first step for us to kind of move space, rather than moving into an MDF space. So clearly, particle board, I feel that there's more opportunity in terms of the gap there and alignment with the existing laminate plant, and you can probably give a better solution to the customers. You can go to architects with laminates, compact laminates, pre-lam boards, edge band, all matching colors for various applications, which you cannot do with MDF. Also, I think in MDF, of whatever we understand, with a limited understanding on that space, there's a lot of new capacities coming up, and which is not the case in particle boards. So I think that was the second consideration. So clearly, we are open to that segment, but at the moment, we don't have a plan on that.
One more continuation to that question would be, understanding is that MDF in fact is cannibalizing the plywood industry, and the growth in the plywood industry would be less than the MDF industry. That's one of why the competitors are not adding capacity in plywood, but you have chosen to invest in plywood. So can you counter that when others are fearing volumes declining to be replaced by MDF, and you will be making new investments in plywoods?
So if you look at where the volumes are declining of plywood, it's mostly in the lower end of the plywood market, which is the unorganized, cheaper plywood market, commercial side of the market. And the plywood we will be producing will not be in that segment. It will be in the mid to premium segment. So clearly we will not be competing in that space with the MDF. So lower end of the plywood market is being replaced by MDF, which is absolutely correct. But the plywood production and the positioning we are doing is not in that segment. That's the idea. Also, we have a large customer base of residential customers which use laminates, veneers, flooring, in their homes. So our plywood production, our plywood model is 100% self-production, in-house production, and mid to premium quality, aimed at the residential market and not at the commercial market. So MDF is replacing plywood in the commercial market for ease of usage. People don't want too much of durability. They are okay with an acceptable quality, fine with a limited durability, which MDF does offer. So that was the rationale of having a plywood plant for us.
Yeah, that's logical. And the last one, any tax incentives on this 950 crores capex?
Yeah, the unit which is in the Naidupeta, that will have the lower tax of 70 as against 25% for the company as a whole.
Thanks.
Jitu Punjabi from EM Capital. So 3 questions.
high level. One, how do you define your core competitive advantage? Because you talked of tripling turnover in 3 years. What gives you the right to get there and the advantage to scale up over 3 years?
We've talked about more than tripling the turnover on the basis of FY21 revenues, which is 1,200 crores, over till FY27. Right? So like last year, we already added 550 crores, into the turnover. So if you ask me what gives us the confidence, I think the net which we've created both in domestic and international market, gives us the confidence that we can get the materials to the market. With the credibility of high quality product, clean approach, solid relationship with channel partners, architects, IDs, we think that. In the laminate space, clearly we are running short of capacity. We're actually running nearly 1 year behind in capacity creation. We had gone to some other state, there were some challenges, and COVID came, there were some delays. So laminates, as we talk right now, even like last quarter, we were at 110% utilization. So on the laminate side, for both domestic and export market, I think we've seeded in the markets well, and markets want more material from us. That's on the laminate side. On the particle board and plywood side, again, if you see our business model in the last few years, we've been a decorative-based industry because of other compulsions. We couldn't move out to the core category. So a lot of heavy lifting has gone in terms of expanding the category, creating the category, in all our existing laminates for that matter. We've added new products. We've focused on category expansion, whether it's facade laminates, bathroom partition, specialty products. We were the first companies to really go and brand, laminates in the international market. So really, it's been hard for us to kind of scale up the business. So we never had a bulk moving product like a particle board or a plywood in our category. And clearly, there's a gap in plywood. We believe there's no third player in the market. Customers and dealers want another player in the market who's focused and who's reliable in terms of quality production. Particle boards is already a 5,000 crore market, so we don't need to go and create a market. Unlike other parts of our laminate business or veneer flooring doors, we were also challenged to kind of expand the category. So at least in plywood particle boards, I think the market exists. We have to go out and execute correctly and take market share and take the growth. So I think our competitive advantage on the front end is where we think we can kind of do this actually.
Okay. The second question reasonably linked is I looked at your 16-quarter numbers and saw that EBITDA has structurally come off by a couple of 100 basis points. So the profit pool has not expanded internally for you commensurate to revenue growth. What gives you the confidence that triple the revenues or 3,700 crore revenues?
Right.
You see a defined profit pool where you think you'd be safe and you'll be comfortable getting there.
So can you put that again? So what did you notice in the 16 quarters?
So it went from 12 to 10 or ballpark 38 to 40 crore EBITDA per quarter, gone to 48 to 50 crore EBITDA after 16 quarters.
Right.
That's the broad 10.
Right. So clearly, if you see, capacity of laminates, unfortunately, has not grown over the last 2 odd years, and we've been faced with significant raw material cost increases, and market have already been seeded in, and we don't have enough capacity at the moment to go and sell. So to move ahead, I think more capacity will help us sell more, and our fixed costs will not increase. Costs will go up at the contribution level, and RM costs, will also have already started softening, at least on the chemical side. So clearly, I think as we scale revenues, we feel margins will also improve in value and percent, where we see things, at the moment.
And you feel comfortable about the new segments you're getting into? You feel comfortable about the profit pool there as well?
So let's put it this way: in particle boards, every other company is a not so significant player, and the people who report numbers, their EBITDA margins are in the range of 28-30%. With a smaller production base, with a lower capacity, with lower efficiency of machines. So I think with the right efficiencies, with the right operating costs, we believe we can achieve.
Okay. And then last question. If for whatever, we wish you well, but if for whatever those targets don't get achieved, where do you see the source of for potential risk to get to those numbers?
So where do I see the source of risk, is it?
Yeah. So I'm saying, God forbid, if we're sitting 3 or 4 years from now,
Sure.
And those numbers aren't put there, right?
Sure.
What do you think could be the reasons for that?
So as we see things now, we're expanding into 3 categories: laminates, plywood, and particle boards. And laminates has been our core business. We're not really going out and doing something new in terms of newer products or newer markets. It's already operating at a certain parameter. We've done that at that parameter. So really, obviously, there are risks in anything. In everything you do, nothing is completely risk-free ever. But we feel confident that we can, get there. Plywood too, market size is large. There is no meaningful third player, in the country. And we're setting up a factory in South India. South India is the number 1 market for branded plywood and for waterproof plywood, and that's a segment we want to enter. So, and again, our understanding of the market network is fairly, decent, I would say that. And particle board also, again, it's not a new category. We're not going to invent a category. So the market already exists. Right? We have to go and take market share. And increasing furniture manufacturing is, kind of going up in India. Right? You have more and more OEMs. We've seen numbers of machinery sales to the, furniture fabricators of kitchen, wardrobe, doors, shop fit-outs. I think they're on the rise. There's a huge, push being given by the government also to expand furniture manufacturing. So really, and the machines we are getting are, again, top quality. So really, we're not innovating with technology. So I don't know why we shouldn't get there. It could be just bad luck or poor execution. I think that's what I could blame it to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. Hi, good evening. This is Keshav from HDFC Securities. Sir, I want to understand whatever your new expansions are coming, so what kind of ROC and what kind of ramp-up you have in your mind?
Yeah. So in terms of ramp-up, we have third year as all the 3 categories will reach the fair amount of utilization, near to 100% of utilization. So for the laminate and plywood, we have budgeted in the 26 because the production will start in Q4, and for the particle board, we have budgeted in 27. And what was the next?
ROC.
And ROC laminate will have the same ROC what it is as at present the currently we have, and for particle board we will have in the range of around, as of now we are budgeting based upon the as Sir said, the 25 to 28% within that. It will be in the range of 20 to 24%, and for the plywood also it will be in the range of this range only, around 20-22%.
One of your companies is also expanding in particle board. What we have heard is they will have some like 2x turnover. So what is the difference between your and his capacity?
I haven't heard that, and I can't say much on that. Because our math doesn't say it's 2x unless one kind of forward integrates into making furniture components or kitchen components, and then the value can go up. But if for the investments we are doing of particle boards and lamination of particle boards, and if you were to take a reasonable mix of pre-lamination and bare boards, ours haven't reached there. So I'm not sure where you got this number from.
Okay, I will take this on one-on-one. And your veneer capacity is very, subpar,
Correct.
which is also dragging the ROC. The same is the case for the door business.
Correct.
So what has went wrong for you and how you plan for this business in the future?
So on the veneer plant, any which ways, the model is not a 24 hours capacity like laminates. But clearly, I think we can do better on the veneer flooring and if you combine all these segments. So I think last few years have just been hard with COVID and with residential sale dropping in between, GST, demonetization. And because all these products are mostly residential or home market products. So we had a little bit of a difficult time there. If you look at Q1, the numbers of flooring have kind of inched up. Realizations have improved, revenues have improved, losses have come down. And veneers too, we had challenges on the raw material side and some competitive pressures. So, but we believe that the numbers can come up. At the peak, we've gone up to 17-18% operating margin in the only veneer panel business. And I think it'll take some more time to kind of come to that segment. On the door side, we're still struggling with the model, just to put the whole program in place. There's a lot of interest, a lot of demand, but clearly on the execution side of pricing, installation, measurement, finishing, I think it's still something we haven't been able to completely get a handle on. So we are working on that to put that up. These three segments don't need any more capital. As you can see, capital employed has actually reduced in these three segments. We don't need more capacities. We don't need more working capital. We just need to focus on executing, and that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Thank you. That's it from my side. And thanks for the detailed presentation.
Hi, good evening, sir. And thanks for the opportunity. Sneha here from Edelweiss. So just a couple of questions from my end. You definitely have mentioned a 3-year plan and tripling in the revenue. Something that you guided for in recent is 20 to 25% revenue growth. Just wanted to understand what will be your realization as well as volume breakup, given that you have mentioned in your presentation that you are running at optimum utilization in the current plant, and your new facility, the acquired one, which will start only by Q2. So just wanted to get on the volume as well as realization breakup.
So 20-25% we mentioned for FY23. In terms of volume growth from last year's production, last year we did about 16.7 million sheets approximately. So we will have the Gujarat plant's production up and running within this quarter. So we'll get about 6 months, of H2 and maybe some part of this quarter. And last year we had a disruption at the Behror plant where we lost literally 1 month of production. So if all goes well, I think on the laminate side, quantity growth should be like a 12-15% times this year. Yeah.
So it's an equal mix that you're targeting.
As it?
Volume as well as realization all will increase.
So realization will also go up versus last year because prices have increased, at different stages. And Q1, 2, we raised some prices. Although that's not reflected on the realization because the mix, got a bit changed in Q1. Yeah, so I think there'll be the value growth also of about the similar percent.
The next question was
realization growth, sorry. So quantity 12-15 and realization will also be similar.
The next question was on your margins. I think you already answered with respect to raw material prices cooling off, and that could aid some amount of margin. I was just observing your employee cost that's been increasing steadily, and I believe in last time's detailed presentation, again, you introduced us to the entire new team, which you've hired for other division. Is that too something which is, taking a hit on margins, and when your new segment operating, which is your particle board, plywood, that will, inch up the margins? Is that one of the reasons? I just want to understand that.
So clearly, the cost structure currently, because we're into an expansion phase, across categories. So we've built in a certain new team, last year itself for the laminates. There have been some hiring internationally too. We opened a subsidiary in Poland and Russia back. So we do have a structure which can sell more in terms of quantity and value. So clearly with capacities getting aligned, and I said that our fixed costs, we believe, will not go up in a proportion, and it'll only be the contribution costs ex-factory or up to the freight to the market which will go up. So clearly I think the structure, the sales marketing setup has been created in a little bit in advance, and I think as we get the Gujarat capacity and the Andhra capacity later this year, I think we should see some sort of percentage normalizing for certain costs.
Yeah. Sure. Last particle board unit which you are adding, a lot of things have actually changed. Your competitors have started reporting much higher margins on a much lower base. Is there anything changing on that front? You think it's changing for positive? And also one more concerning fact in the MDF segment which has started emerging is imports slightly coming back according to our checks. Where do you think this industry is going, and any changes in the margins that you are observing for your new unit?
So what was your second question? One was the margin of particle
board margin itself, and the scenario changing in terms of whether imports are coming back, or you think it's only changing for the better?
What is coming back?
Imports.
So on the particle board side, we said 25, 26, 27% of operating margin. So at the moment, because every month we are updating our cost sheets and our sales prices and all, So it looks in the same range. Competition report higher margin on a lower base. Now, whether that is really relevant because you don't have enough capacity in the market, right? There's a shortage of particle boards. There is no one who can really produce boards. So maybe it's probably a temporary, blip when we have in the market. Maybe the margins kind of come down to some extent, I guess so. And so really, I'm not so sure, when we enter the market, where is the raw material cost? What's up with the sales prices? But as we see things now, with the maths we have, it probably will be in the band. 1 or 2% here or there depends on cost, ability to value add, which might take some time to reach a certain, stage of value addition. But that's on the margin front. On the imports, I haven't heard much with imports coming back, although I have heard that some of the larger laminators have tried to import MDF and particle boards in break bulk, which we believe is not sustainable. The feedback I have is that it's not something which is sustainable at the moment. If tomorrow freight costs, come down, at one point shipping from Thailand, Malaysia into, India was $50, $100. If that happens, so clearly imports do get some more competitiveness, in terms of the freight costs, right? So as we talk right now, I don't see much changes. And with this whole war situation also, wood costs have gone up in Europe. A lot of wood was coming in from Russia and from Ukraine, so that's also stopped. So I'm not able to clearly say, what's going to happen. So as we see things now, not much has changed on the import situation. But even if imports happen, and you have raw material, all the wood we are using is all plantation-based wood. In particle boards, unlike MDF, to pitch it against them, but just as a product understanding, you can use mixed wood species. You don't need to use only one species. You can use all kind of wood waste, sawmill waste. Mixed woods can be used. So clearly, your ability to arrange raw material at a reasonable cost, is quite high.
Thanks a lot.
Hello, sir. This is Adesh from Motilal Oswal AMC. Thanks for a very elaborate presentation. Sir, just wanted to understand in laminates, especially in exports, how is the competitive landscape, especially after the Ukraine situation in Europe, and what right to win you have over there?
So, competitive in exports, if you talk vis-a-vis Indian exporters, if you talk vis-a-vis the local producers in those geographies, so is it a specific question or is it
both Indian as well as the local producers?
Right. So clearly, there is high competition, especially in the commodity segment of the market, which is the commodity white liners, as I say, which are just used as backing products inside furniture cabinet production. But in the branded segment, which is more, specification-led, distribution, range-led, there the competition is not so much from the Indian producers. There we end up competing with the international producers based on the geographies. As far as export demand is concerned, the demand seems to be quite robust right now. Not the consumption of laminates has gone up. We believe production in Europe has kind of reduced, or there are temporary challenges with the European producers in terms of raw material availability, people availability, water availability. So I think so there is a situation right now where we believe the export demand is quite decent, which also means the European exporters can't export to other markets. Certain European exporters were shipping throughout Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Russia, North Africa, Israel, Middle East. So I think the exports to these countries have also kind of come under pressure, which gives us an opportunity to take some market share from there. As to when is concerned, so clearly for the last 15, 17 years, our model in exports have been more based on a long-term business model rather than a contract or price-based or dispatch-based model. So we've worked towards building distribution, demand generation with architects, designers, OEM, furniture producers. I think in terms of customer base, distribution, people on ground, specifications across various parts of the market, we believe in a good position to kind of capitalize on the export business.
Right. Sir, how big is, in terms of global laminate trade?
I don't have that right away, but clearly Europe, if you would take Western and Eastern Europe, it will be the largest market worldwide for actually all wood panel industry. Even for us, if I were to combine UK, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, it will be a largest market now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hi, Ivan here from Niveshaay. I had two questions. One is that if there is a trend of pre-lam, in MDF and other segments, how does that change our demand from, because we might not be supplying the laminates where there is a pre-lam facility, right? And second is that the gap, which is there in the particle board industry is, known since long. So why aren't other players or the, bigger players also thinking of a particle board, or is it that people might be planning for particle board facilities, the larger MDF guys, and they might be, charting for their expansion in particle boards also, if you could clarify?
So, answering your first question, will pre-lam particle board MDF take away market share from laminates? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. Yes.
So clearly, all laminated products compete with each other for certain surfaces, certain categories, or certain applications, and those decisions are taken basis the requirement of the product, depending on the physical properties, the performance. Largely, we've seen pre-lam MDF particle board gain more traction on the OEM side of the business, which is organized furniture manufacturing. On the carpentry side, we believe laminates is still the core, product to be used by customers, either on plywood or on MDF. Also, the range of particle boards, pre-lam and MDF, is always going to be limited because it works in a 30-40 SKU. Just because products are, when you say pre-laminated, you have a deco paper on a board, right? The board could be 12 mil, 18 mil, 25 mil. So options of color range, texture product, and the whole logistics of manufacturing, inventory management, stocking on the market is nearly impossible with particle boards MDF for the day-to-day retail home improvement distribution business. Laminates are 1 millimeter thick. One can stock 10,000 sheets, 20,000 sheets in a small and move it very quickly. Stocking 10,000 boards of 18 millimeter and moving it is extremely hard. So our learning has been OEMs, which are buying directly from the factory, or OEMs who are located in the outskirts, mostly fabricators buying from stockists in a limited color pattern. That market is going to be particle boards and pre-lam MDF. Mostly pre-lam particle boards, because 85-90% of boards of the particle board is sold as pre-lam boards. And the distribution model, retail model, going to a lot of carpenters, dealers, distributors, color options, is going to be a laminated market. So that's our understanding. On the other companies doing what they're doing, so one of our nearest competitor in laminates is also putting up a particle board capacity, so that we are aware of. What are the other players doing? So like Action is a competitor, they have a certain particle board capacity. So does Century Ply have, but their capacities are smaller with a different model of production and machinery. MDF side, larger players, mid-size plywood players. They could have different formats. Some could do continuous lines, some could do multi-thread lines, some could even have smaller lines. But that's our understanding. And why have they not expanded? I'm not sure on that, but clearly somebody has to do it. Somebody does it at one point, and other people follow it, right? So.
Because Action, I guess, would be hitting the markets. They are also, I guess, coming to the capital markets next year. So they might, I don't know, whether they're raising money for the particle board or what.
I'm not so aware of it. But I do know they have a particle board plant, but the capacities are smaller, like I said earlier, and the machines they have are slightly, their operating costs will be higher than the new age continuous lines.
Sir, also, there's a plant in south, I guess, which is, not, operational right now. So what are the chances that it might get operational or can take that facility? Because there's a huge gap between the demand and supply. That's why, our facility also makes more sense.
Right.
So, any understanding why that is not being taken up?
So there are several issues in that plant, and I believe you're referring to the plant in Bangalore, right, near Bangalore,
yes.
Malur. So there are several issues with the plant, with ownerships and bankruptcies and NCLTs and all that. So I don't know why that's not getting sorted out, but I believe it's more complicated than we think it is. So I'm not sure how, when, if that gets ever resolved or not.
Thank you so much.
Hi, sir. This is Abhishek Vora from Ambit Asset. My first question was on the domestic and exports volume breakup, if you could give during the quarter and how it panned out and how do you see that going ahead?
You wanted the data for Q1?
Yes.
The domestic and export both eventually in this quarter are nearly the same, and that is 2.06 million sheets.
You wanted the growth, so.
Growth?
Yeah.
Or the, okay. Growth for the domestic was 41% in volume, and export was down 13% in volume.
Right, sir. So, because you just mentioned about good tailwinds with exports, but how do you see that going ahead? Is this bump in the quarter, or do you expect Q2 exports to be better than the Q1?
No, it's not as exports are not doing well. So
right.
we said we've had a higher inventory in transit of exports.
Right.
So production side, factories run at 110% utilization.
Sure.
Right, and there's only so much we can produce, right, and you can't produce beyond that. So approximately 18 to 20 crores worth of exports, which is in transit, which is not in the factory, which is dispatched from the factory, is between plant and seaport. It's between plant and the inland port, and inland port to the client's customer destination port.
Right.
So then March also was elevated.
Got it.
So clearly, I think that the logistical challenges, are showing up in terms of the numbers of exports. In Q1 last year, there was COVID, right?
Right.
And domestic market was by and large, at a very subdued level, and we had the whole export market. So largely, all production was pushed to exports, and our downfall in Q1 last year was very, very small versus, every other player in our industry.
Right.
So from a trajectory of exports, backlog of exports, there is no problem on that.
Right. So is there a sequential volume growth number handy with you with regards to both domestic?
I'll share with you
Sure.
at a later stage.
Sure. One more question I had on the capacity utilization, if you can share for the wooden floors and doors and your plans ahead on that part.
So wooden floor and doors did about 40 crores in Q1. So clearly, utilizations in all the three categories are far from any satisfactory level. And obviously, the numbers for this year, we said about 20-25% growth of the overall revenues of the company. So wood, veneer, flooring, door business will also, hopefully grow well this year.
Right. Is there a utilization number that you would like to share, because you shared the veneer?
We can share the numbers.
Yeah. The veneer is 26%.
Yeah.
Floors are 13%, and doors are 8.5-9%.
Sure, sir. Sir, if just one last question, if I may squeeze in, with regards to if you can give some risks that you see with regards to the imports of the wood panels, if the other countries would like to, venture into the Indian markets where they see some dry space, and these companies that may take time to ramp up their capex. In the meanwhile, is there anything that you would like to mention on that front?
So when you say wood panels, I'm assuming you mean particle boards
and MDF.
Is that right?
Yes.
So if you see the last, maybe decade or so, the international companies has used India as a dumping ground. So wherever there's been additional production or capacity, they've kind of pushed goods into India, and they haven't really marketed the product or created a brand or a setup here. And whenever this happens, if this does happen, it's mostly limited on the port side, right? So till the port, let's say Chennai or mostly Chennai or some other ports, there is viability. The moment goods start moving inward, the freight cost kind of eats up the competitive advantage. So do we see that as a risk? Obviously, anything can happen tomorrow. If the sea freights again collapse, oil collapses, the world can change, right? So can't say much on that. But even if that does happen, it's more, from a commodity, on a commodity pricing, limited to certain markets and geographies. If you have to laminate the product, create a brand, go to customers, create specification, then you don't face these pressures so much.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir.
So we have one question from the online participant. This is from Mr. Kumawat. The question is, what price hikes were taken during the quarter across products?
Online?
Yeah, it's online. You can.
So in the domestic laminate market, we increased prices by about 3%, and exports was raised by about 5%, which got implemented through the quarter. On the wood veneer flooring side, there was no price increase implemented in quarter one.
Okay. Do we have? Yeah.
Hi, this is Tanush from JM Financial. So the capacities that are coming up, post that I wanted to understand, the customers or the clients we are catering in terms of pyramid. So if we can say plywood, we are coming into, we can say the premium and maybe the mass category, and the mid-level one or the lower category is not our foray.
In plywood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
But at the same, they're also doing particle boards.
Correct.
So particle boards would cater the economy segment. Is that understanding correct?
No, so particle board, the plywood will be more residential market. Particle board will be more the OEM market. Basically the whole furniture fabricator segment, which also uses laminates, right? So your kitchen producers, door producers, wardrobe producers, shop fit outs. So these fabricators, organized carpentry or mechanized furniture manufacturers will be customer base for particle boards. And plywood will be more residential, while particle boards will be largely more commercial. And will also, certain fabricators also focus on home furniture, which is kitchens and some of the loose items of particle boards, which will be catered through the OEMs.
Okay. So basically, could just throw some light. So what kind of furniture IKEA makes? I mean, they are more into particle boards, if I'm not wrong. Or?
Yeah. So IKEA, what we understand, about 80% of the raw materials is based on particle boards.
Okay. That's it from my side.
Do we have any further questions? Further questions, I would hand over the call to Mr. Saurabh Mittal for closing remarks.
Thank all of you all for your time and for your questions. If there are more questions to be responded to, Ashok can take it offline. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Now I would request everyone to please join us for the high tea.